compadre that's over there right now was screwing with him earlier when he was out putting my signs up, and now he's saying put his information out over the air to jerk me around. This shit's got to stop.
All right, we're here with Brian, and Brian, we, Bill and I, your campaign manager, sitting over there. We kind of stirred up something here.
Hi, Bill.
So those of you who don't know, Brian is running for sheriff. We have a primary coming up on Tuesday, right?
Yes, sir.
And we were investigating a incident. Bill came to me. He filed what they call a Freedom of Information Act of an accident scene that happened in Lewiston, where Brian is a Lewiston police officer. And of course, Brian stayed out of it and didn't come to the call or nothing. But Bill told me he was getting the video, and then almost a month goes by. He still tells me he's not getting the video. One of the first things I heard is that the town attorney is the one that's refusing to release the video. And according to the law, they're supposed to give you notice in 5 days whether they're releasing it or not, with a reason why. The attorney in the town of Lockport was Tom Seaman, and his brother is actually running for the county district attorney, which is like the second most powerful elected position compared to the position Brian here is running for. I consider that the first most powerful position. So we have the two top law enforcement positions in the county to deal with the judicial system, and now you have the Carolyn Watazik, which is connected with them too, and their endorsed candidate was Michael Filicetti. So it was right from the get-go. I knew from knowing who that town attorney that it was a conflict of interest. So when I called the town clerk, asking why, being a little more assertive, why aren't we getting this video to see it? And basically told her, I says, if the town attorney is involved with this at all, that's really, it's against the law. It shouldn't happen. And so I think the day later, the town attorney ended up recusing himself. I did a little video in front of town hall regarding to the allegation, what was going on. Then after that video, Channel 4 came out and really kind of beat us up pretty good. And I thought it was totally biased, but we're here today with Brian, who was actually working that night. So Brian, why don't you hit on, I got the video here.
Then for vehicle 1 would just be left side of accident.
Your chief's aware of this?
Yeah.
I'm going to be calling him tomorrow. I'm going to tell you what, your compadre that's over there right now was screwing with him earlier when he was out putting my signs up, and now he's saying put his information out over the air to jerk me around. This shit's got to stop. Now it's getting personal. And if he was here, I'd tell him the same thing. This is getting ridiculous. I don't jerk you guys around at all. I support you 100%. This is getting ridiculous with him. But when he's screwing with my family, that's not right, and you know it. You heard what went over the air. If he did something wrong, I'll hold him accountable, and you guys should hold him accountable too. But he didn't do anything wrong. It's not right. I wouldn't do that to your family. Your chief's up because I'm calling him right now.
Yeah, he said.
You guys didn't do anything. I'm not saying you did, but I would never expect one of my deputies to do what Brian Greer just did over there on Bridgman Road. That's not right. Because my kid's out putting political signs up, he's going to bust his chops earlier in the night, stopping him, saying he's on the wrong side of the road. What are we, 10-year-olds?
First, explain why you typically work days, so why were you working night that day, on nights?
Okay, well, if I could just back up.
Yeah, go ahead.
To start here, this whole story that we're about to talk about is not about me. It's not about Brian and the sheriff's race, although my opponent has attempted to twist it around that it is about Brian and the sheriff's race. It's about the Freedom of Information Act and a body cam video that was out the night of an incident that our campaign was attempting to follow the proper procedure to obtain. I say we, not I. Bill Nye had filed paperwork through a FOIL through Lewiston to obtain a copy of a body cam. It was refused within the timestamp, and a letter was sent out. So subsequently, Mr. Nye contacted an attorney who sent a formal letter to Lewiston advising them that basically they were in violation and they had to provide the body cam or give reason why not. So my question was involving it, and I had no involvement in that FOIL or that body cam or any of the rest. So my question was, well, if this attorney was going to recuse himself, why didn't he recuse himself on day one of the request?
My big concern is the victims. Okay, so I always look at, what happened here, who got hurt, was it really something bad? Because I'm not going to take sides right away until what really happened here. So I reached out and actually contacted the owner of the vehicle. And what I heard from them was totally blew my mind away, because they had a perfect description on the vehicle. The vehicle allegedly stopped at the scene. The people were in the backyard or in the house. I'm hearing they were in the backyard. So two different stories I'm hearing. And then allegedly the vehicle backed up, checked the damage. He got out, checked the damage, got back in the car and took off. But by that time they were running out to the scene and they saw the vehicle take off. And the vehicle itself, I'll show you in the video here, is that they said it had fancy LED lights in the back, or lights, which the truck does. It has a light bar underneath the tailgate. It had loud exhaust, which it does too. And then when they gave chase to the same vehicle they saw leave with the lights and the exhaust, they got a plate number which linked totally the sheriff's son's vehicle to the scene. So in the connecting video here that we're going to show you here was the stop. According to the timestamp, it was virtually almost 4 hours after, but according to Brian, he says he thinks it was within an hour. But from your experience, where were you at that night? Why were you working that night?
I was assigned an overnight duty working a detail on the Tuscarora Indian Reservation, assigned to assist a group of American Indians that refer to themselves as, quote, the uncles. They're a group that are looking to, keep some things that have happened on the reservation in days past, so they don't occur again.
So they're trying to keep the crime down, basically.
Well, not just crime. They're trying to keep some semblance of order, and some of the things that have gone on in the history of the reservation, they don't want to continue. So they're well-intentioned group that just are, for lack of a better term, attempting to police their own territory. And I was assigned to assist them.
But you weren't even supposed to work that night.
I was not. No,
Okay.
I was called and asked if I could work the overnight for that detail, and I certainly was, happy to take the assignment.
So then you're there because you're basically hanging out with these group of Native Americans.
Yes.
Helping them, monitor what's going in and out of the reservation, and then what happened after that time? When did you first find out that this incident took place?
So, for me, I stopped at the entrances to the reservation and talking to the Indians. That was my assignment. So, in talking to them, I advised them, look, I'll be out here with you all night. Should you need anything, I'll be checking with you at all your little road stops. At the entrances. So in doing that, I inquired if some of the Native American group of uncles would like a cup of coffee or hot chocolate. And they indicated some did, some didn't. So I took an order between some of the entrances to the Tuscarora Nation. I took an order for some coffees and hot chocolate. So I decided to go down to Tim Hortons at 31 and Military to obtain the drinks, buy the drinks for the Native Americans. Tim Hortons was closed at that time. So Valero across the street, I went into. Now I have to make, with the push button, every hot chocolate, every cup of coffee. So I made 10 cups of coffee and hot chocolate for the group out there. So after I make 10 drinks, I got a double stack, 5 and 5 of drinks. I'm standing in line waiting to pay for the drinks. And my phone rings, and it's another officer from Lewiston calling me to advise me of a hit and run on Bridgman Road. So the first thing I do is I'm holding 10 cups of coffee and hot chocolate, is I got the phone in my ear. I reach over to my portable to make sure that I didn't forget to turn my portable on, because I didn't hear anything. So being assigned in close proximity to a detail on Tuscarora Nation, I'm concerned about a hit and run. Doesn't involve a stolen vehicle. Doesn't involve something related to my assignment, because we're relatively close to somebody steal a vehicle. What is going on? And because there was nothing put across the radio. So I had asked.
But typically, hit and runs are put over the radio because they want to catch the person when it happens, right?
Every call. there's no reason to hold a call unless it's something of not dire nature. There's no reason to hold a call. You could come up with some kind of reason. Typically, if there was something, cars were tied up, somebody would get on and say, be advised, we have a hit and run holding on whatever, such and such a street. It tells you in your mindset, okay, whatever I'm doing here, I got to hurry up because we got another call stacking up that we have to address.
But in this call here, I found out that the call wasn't dispatched till like 4 or 5 minutes later. So your opinion, that's showing that the county purposely withheld the haul for whoever to get, and it gives an advantage to the perpetrator to get away if they withhold the call. Is that?
I can't tell you why the call was held for 5 minutes, but the time of the call and the time of dispatch, there's a 5-minute disparity. I don't know why it was either forgot to be dispatched or did not get dispatched, but when you hold a call, it's very important you get that information forthwith for whatever it is. If you have somebody leaving the scene, whether it's a hit and run, it's a crime, it's a missing person, it's whatever it may be, if there's a delay in getting out the information to the patrols that are, if there's a delay in giving out pertinent information, if you have a missing person, somebody with Alzheimer's left in a vehicle, crime, vehicle and traffic, whatever it is, if there's somebody that's leaving the scene, to delay getting that information out to the eyes and ears, which are road patrol in any area, you're in remiss.
So when you called on your handheld and you said what to the county radio dispatch?
I'm on a portable via body mic here while I'm holding 10 cups of drink in line. I'm not in a car. I'm not privy to a computer screen. I asked dispatch. I said, radio, do you have a hit and run holding on Bridgman Road? And radio replied, affirmative. Can you respond to such and such address on Bridgman?
You never mentioned anybody's name. You just asked if there was a hit and run.
I asked if there was a hit and run. They indicated yes, and they dispatched me to the hit and run. So then I asked dispatch, where does the vehicle come back to? The hit and run vehicle.
Okay.
Where does it come back to? Because this has all been brought into question. Look, I don't know who's involved in the hit and run. I said, where does it come back to? Not who. Who is not important. Where, because typically a vehicle attempts to return
to the house to
the home. So being part of the eyes and ears that are on a patrol, if I see a vehicle matching leaving the scene for whatever the call is, you're the eyes and ears. Here's the vehicle.
So what did they say? You asked them where does it come back to. What did they respond to?
They advised me Lewiston, a street in Lewiston. They did not give an address.
They didn't know address. Okay, that was
no address.
So I'm going to show you a video here. This is Sheriff Phil Suddy or Under Sheriff Phil Suddy at the scene, kind of bringing your name up at the scene, basically saying that you said something over the radio that shouldn't have been said.
This is getting ridiculous. I don't jerk you guys around at all. I support you 100%. This is getting ridiculous with him. But when he's screwing with my family, that's not right. You know it. You heard what went over the air.
I just want to clarify something here. I had absolutely no involvement in this investigation for hit and run, other than what I just explained to you. Now,
because you heard the call, but you didn't go to the scene.
No, I'm going to clarify that right now. So as I'm standing in line, that was all a portable radio transmission. So as I'm standing in line I'm still holding 10 drinks, 5 and 5 double-decker. I pay for my drinks. I get out in the car. The first thing I do is I call our chief. I look at the computer screen. I call the chief. I see the plate. I see who it comes back to. I call the chief to advise them what we have.
Okay, so then you see in your computer screen it was then who the owner of the vehicle was.
Yes.
So then, okay, go ahead.
So I call the chief at home. I advise him what we in fact were looking at, and the chief advised me, do not go. Do not have any involvement with that call for any reason whatsoever. Have the other officer that handles it call me. I said, yes, sir. So I have absolutely zero involvement in that hit and run, that investigation. I wasn't out there. I did not see Mr. Filicetti, junior or senior, and I had no part of that investigation.
So what concerns me is Sheriff Filicetti basically is accusing you of saying something over the radio, and you can hear in the tone of his voice, he's upset, he's bringing politics into it.
And now he's saying put his information out over the air to jerk me around? This shit's got to stop.
So really, they said putting information over the air to jerk him around. How would that jerk him around?
I just merely asked, where does the vehicle come back to?
Which is
it's-
typically it should have been dispatched anyway. So it kind of shows there's fault falling on the sheriff's department because the dispatch, because they purposely withheld the call, and you had the call in to verify the call.
I did the call.
So they're upset at you because you verified the call, and they're upset that you verified a call that the sheriff's son's involved with. It just.
Well, I'm verifying a call that was not dispatched. Now, the reason it wasn't dispatched, they have to answer that on the other end. That's not for me to answer. Now, being that the plate comes back to the undersheriff's son, I don't know if the undersheriff's son lives at home with him. I don't know where he lives. I don't know the undersheriff's son.
So he also mentions an incident where you were harassing him earlier. How were you harassing him earlier?
I never harassed him earlier. At the start of my shift, I believe, was 9 o'clock. So maybe around 10 o'clock-ish, I'm on patrol. I'm traveling eastbound on 104 in Lewiston. And as I'm traveling eastbound, here's my patrol. There was a vehicle parked facing westbound on my shoulder with his high beams on.
So he was on your side of the road with his high beams on, and you're a police officer driving down the road, and you come across us.
Yes, and it's 10:30 at night, give or take. So I never pulled this vehicle over. I can't see. I mean, the high beams are on, and it's a larger vehicle.
So you can't see who it is.
I absolutely cannot. So I pull up next to this vehicle as a policeman's supposed to. You see somebody on the shoulder of the road, you stop, whether it's daylight, nighttime. Are you all set? Do you need anything? That's your job. So I pull up next to this vehicle, and I shine my spotlight up in the passenger side window because that's how our vehicle's connected.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "You all set?" And the passenger says, "Yeah, we're putting up signs." So
What time was this about?
I think about maybe 10:30.
Okay.
So I didn't affect a traffic stop. I didn't pull in behind the vehicle. I just merely was checking to see if they were all set. So the passenger says to me, "We're putting up signs." So now the driver leans forward. He goes, "My dad's running for sheriff. We're putting up signs. Is there a problem?" I said, "Well, for starters, you got your high beams on, and then secondly, you're on the wrong side of the road." So the driver, now I'm figured out that it's Mike Filicetti's son. So he looks down, he clicks the high beam lever as to take the high beams off. He says, "My high beams aren't on." I said, "At the very least, my friend, you're on the wrong side of the road. Could you please park on the other side of the road?" He said, "Okay." That was the extent of our interaction. I never asked him his name. I never got out on my patrol.
I had filed a report, never did it. You could have gave him a ticket legally, right?
There was nothing to it. It was just somebody on the wrong side of the road after hours with his high beams on. I don't know if somebody's in trouble. I don't know if there's a problem. I mean, my job is to stop. At that point, my job is to make sure somebody's all set.
Exactly.
So for what you're trying to, or what you're showing, he's trying to infer that I'm bothering his son. That's not the case.
Harassing, right?
That's not the case here at all.
So that was that. And I'm just concerned about the dispatch aspect. And he's upset because you said something over the radio. But now we can get them. We can get dispatch tapes too. We can actually hear exactly what happened and the time and everything. So that needs to be looked into in that aspect. But he said he's calling your chief too. So that was concerned. That was my concern with that too. But now, go ahead.
I spoke to my chief, after the fact, after I initially called him and woke him up and told him what was going on. And I've spoke to him after the fact. And, he said, "Brian, you didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing. I mean, you're not harassing his son." And he says, "I told you not to go." I said, I didn't want to have any involvement. I certainly did not. And, I mean, let's call it what it is. I wouldn't want to be the dispatcher taking the call in the communications center or something that might involve the boss's son. I mean, they're put in a sticky situation, but you still have to give out the call, give out the information. I mean, it's important whether, you're connected to the boss or not. That's not what we do.
Mm-hmm. So my other aspect is not really related to you per se. It's related to the investigation. And I was kind of concerned that, the video we received is not the whole interview of the victim. There's another body cam that's missing when we wanted everything related to that report, and we still don't have all the other video. But the owner reached out to me, and we actually received pictures of the car that were damaged, and you can actually see. We're going to put the pictures up on the screen here. That you can see it was a very low car. The the sheriff's truck, his son's truck, is actually lifted. It has a Rough Country sticker in the background where Rough Country makes lift kits. So this truck already is another 2 to 3 inches higher, maybe higher than a factory truck, which the mirror, I measured the mirror at 40 inches, it would just basically go through the wheel well. And when the owner contacted the body shop even said that, because he wanted to know why they wanted the video, months after the accident or the photos, and the body shop even confirms, this is a grazing style accident where it just ran lightly across the whole side of the vehicle, causing $6,000 in damage. So, but most of the damage would have been caused by the tire, what we found. And when you look at the tires on his truck, even the police officer said it's got wheel space. The wheels are sticking out farther than they should. So we see marks on the side of this truck that are totally connect with the accident. So it kind of disturbed me, and I asked your chief this, do you think in any way the sheriff intimidated the officers, how he's treating? Because in the video from Channel 4, you can see the sheriff's like this, pointing. And that's usually a sign of, bullying. I'm telling you what's going on here. You don't see it so much in the video we got because he's facing it directly. There's a light in the background, so you don't see the sheriff. But he's obviously, visibly upset. But if this was your accident, I don't mean to pin anything on the police department. You work for your chief, but it just seems like something is kind of blaming at both.
Well, I would say this. My chief, Frank Previtt, is a fantastic leader. He ranks with the best that I've ever worked with and for. I would follow him to the edge of wherever and back. I love our department in Lewiston. We're like a family. Everybody gets along. Our chief treats us all equally, treats us all like gold, and we are all his people. I can say this from the hundreds and thousands of people that I've talked to in my law enforcement career. When something involves somebody and you're under investigation, there's a lot of people that come, sometimes parents, sometimes others, that want to be involved and want to talk and want to, tell you something that have no knowledge of the actual investigation you're doing. So typically, you would advise that person, like I've done, hundreds, if not thousands of times, sir, ma'am, wait over there, please. I will be happy to talk to you when I'm done speaking to whomever you're talking. That's typically what you do. The sheriff come and inserted himself into the investigation that I saw in the video here. It's a tough situation for, young officers to be in. You have an acting sheriff coming over, being involved and telling you. I mean, sure, it's intimidating to a young officer. You didn't have seasoned officers working that particular night handling this incident. So
the young, and you see the one young officer, she's like, she's pointing at something in the bottom corner. But these officers aren't trained at body damage, not really trained.
You are.
To really, recognize. And because you're more of a seasoned officer, if this wasn't related to you at all, how would you have handled the call differently?
Well, I can't second guess what they did because, like I said,
yeah.
I wasn't there. I had no involvement in this call whatsoever. My involvement was essentially calling my chief and advising him, what was, being relayed to us.
So in the video, it shows the sheriff, Mr. Phil Setti, showing up, and they're investigating the accident. And he simply shows up and takes his son off to the side to talk to him. Now, any normal investigations, you're at a scene, is that something you would allow to happen, a parent to come up and take their child away from a scene?
Usually not, because it's pending investigation. If you're doing an investigation, as I explained, you nicely tell people. Sometimes you got to be a little less than nice because they're like, well, that's my son and that's my daughter. Ma'am, sir, I understand, but we're conducting an investigation, and I will not leave here until I speak to you, but I will speak to you when I'm done speaking to them.
But if I'm a new deputy and a sheriff shows up and it's his son, I'm going to kind of standoffish. I'll be kind of nervous. In my opinion, I think you'd be a little more assertive. Would have handled a little differently. But that's what raises my question. I was more concerned about the dispatch and everything else. I have pictures of the car. I'm going to show you how it lines up to the vehicle. Not that car, but I found the exact same make and model of car at a dealership around the corner, and I took photographs to show people how the damage would have happened. But that's what we're concerned about. I'm concerned about the town attorney. We're going to show you that the town attorney is totally related to the political machine. So he did not want to release this video because it makes their candidate look bad. And it really disturbed me to no end. And how Channel 4 treated us. Channel 4 came when they called me and said that, you know, the Channel 4 wants to come down and interview because you did this video. I says, great, the victim's right here in my office. You know, that news reporter, what was his name?
Dave Graber.
Dave Graber. He didn't even, he could care less what the victim had to say. It was totally political with him. He never reached out to the Lewiston Police Department. He never really wanted to see. It was basically his opinion, and never wanted to get the second story. How long did you meet with that reporter for? I mean, we were there for about an hour, and he put, what, a little clip of what you said on there?
Well, it wasn't even my intention to come over and speak to him. The story wasn't about me, Dave. It was about that body cam and the town attorney and the recusal. That's what that story was about. So
they made it more political when it was, I'm questioning my first video. It's like, you know, if I'm questioning the integrity of the sheriff's office to hold back on the call, not prosecute or investigate a scene properly. It's okay, what's going on? Or is there special treatment because it's a sheriff's son? And that's what I was really, you know, if we're electing somebody, we need to see the accountability for it. That's why I wanted to leave Brian out of it, because I was doing more investigation, and the news go ahead and just totally makes it 100% political, where we had a victim that was out $6,000 in insurance damage. Did the Buffalo News reach out to you?
I believe, yes. Tom Prohaska left me a message seeking comment. Okay. I didn't return his call seeking that comment. Like I said, that story, it wasn't about me. It wasn't about my comment. That story was about a body cam that we had every right to get, that Mr. Nye attempted to get and sought your help. He sought the help of an attorney to attempt to obtain a body cam. I had no involvement with that accident or alleged accident, so my comment was irrelevant. I didn't want to make it political because it was not about me.
But they were withholding it. They didn't release it till I really started pushing buttons, and obviously they did. So I had to make it political to get the video.
I understand. It's just, and that's what brings me here today.
You know, so we're going to follow up with you, whatever happens. I'm not sure if the owner's going to press charges or ask for reinvestigation, because a lot of the evidence we're going to try and get the narrative from the victims, because what happened there, because we almost think, to what I heard from the owner of the vehicle, that the vehicle is positively ID'd. And you can actually see the LED, the loud exhaust in the video that we have. So it's very shady, especially in today's times. Thanks for coming on, Brian.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me today.
Let's shed some
Appreciate
light
it.
on
And again, happy Father's Day.
Yeah,
Thank you much.
Happy Father's Day with you, too.